Good afternoon, folks. How are we doing today? It is the 5th day of August 2025. August is moving pretty quickly. It's about 2:30, 2:20 in the afternoon on a Tuesday. Today we're going to take a quick peek. Two quick peeks. One quick peek into Candyland and one into hell. That's the best way I can sum it up, I suppose. Candyland, I'm referring to Jeffrey Epstein's palatial New York estate in Manhattan, Upper Manhattan, facing Central Park. 27,000 square feet, 21,000 square feet. I wrote an article about it this morning. I found a expose, if you would, including a very small number of photographs from the New York Times. I don't know if their photographer went into Candyland, Pedo Mansion, but they certainly had a number of photos, and they went through a number of photos. In some of the photos, you can see somewhat obvious cameras up in the corners of rooms. I believe those cameras are dummies, placed there to make people think, okay, there's a camera there, okay. In other rooms, they look around, they don't see one of these, so they think there's no camera in it. That's what I believe. However, two main ones you see these cameras. There is an anteroom next to his master, on the offshore, attached to his master bedroom, and there's one in there, and there's also one over top of his master bedroom. The bed in his master bedroom, looking down. If this is the bed facing this way, if you're on the bed facing this way, it's up here facing down, but it also would see this interestingly positioned love seat that is just off the foot of the bed, not facing away from the bed like you would imagine a chair or something like that in a master bedroom. You come in and sit down with your wife or your spouse or whoever, and you're talking. No, this one's turned to face the bed, so that a couple, say, could sit in the love seat and watch Jeffrey Epstein rape a child. You think I'm making this up? No. Excuse me. So, here's the camera I'm speaking of. Clearly sitting up there, bold as you like. I'm sure there are many others. This is the master bedroom. I'll show you other pictures that were published in the New York Times in a second. I'll read you my article from this morning. This is you have to remember, was it Leslie Wexner gave him this house. He had it decorated. But Leslie Wexner gave him this house. Gave him this house to enjoy. Right on the fucking right. You open the door and walk across the street and you're in Central Park. You have no idea how valuable that property is. It's 27,000 square feet, and I'll show you a bit of it. Or as much as the New York Times chose to show. But here is the bed. Now, as you can see, the bed is at a certain height, certainly above where the seat of this love seat would be. It's also, you can see the end of the bed here because this covering of the bed wraps around equidistant from the end of the bed and from the sides and from the top. the headboard. This is a love seat. And if you look at the shadow and you see the light, the space between the bed and the love seat. A love seat is there so that whatever's happening on the bed can be witnessed by people or a person in the love seat. Are you with me? Okay. So, I didn't make that up. Someone said it reminds them of the last scene from 2001: A Space Odyssey. I can see that. I can see that. The floor is illuminated with squares. I can see that. I think what the biggest takeaway I've got from this palatial New York mansion, I think it was designed, when you first walk in, according to the New York Times, there were framed collections of prosthetic eyes on the wall, dozens and dozens of them. You would see dozens and dozens of prosthetic eyes looking at you, framed as if it was a collection. I don't believe it was a collection. I believe it was a warning. We're watching you. Somebody said, was it Ehud Barak? Told, according to according to the New York Times article, Jeffrey Epstein, that he was amazed every time he went to the New York palatial Candyland, because he was always surprised by how much Jeffrey Epstein knew about each and every one of his guests. Same was true for, I heard the same thing said for Julian Assange. And you'd think that'd be crazy because Julian Assange was being tortured in the mansion, first of all, in the United Kingdom, by that fucking, by the guy who ran the television network, Empire. And then, of course, in this, supposedly locked up in the Ecuadorian embassy in London, this small little Ecuadorian embassy, a tenth the size of this palatial estate here. How would Julian Assange know so much about his guests? Well, he knew so much about his guests because he would be briefed on the trip into the country and the trip to the fucking either estate, when he lived with a billionaire, or the Ecuadorian embassy. And he would be briefed by the Central Intelligence Agency, because that's what he was. Julian Assange serves a similar purpose. He served a similar purpose. He can no longer do so because, of course, quote unquote, he's dead. Which, of course, we all understand what that means. However, it's much harder for him to interact with the kinds of people he interacted with back in the day, seeing as how they don't want to be the ones caught in the home with Jeffrey Epstein and some 14-year-old girls. When someone decides enough is enough, oh look, he is alive, let's go get him. So his client list has certainly shrink since his quote-unquote death. But he is still doing this stuff. But aside from that, that's what his purpose was. Again, I've told you before, he was a fixer. He didn't provide the same advice to all of his clients Some he just helped propel in terms of their celebrity in places like Hollywood or Nashville. Others, he helped provide funding for their research. Maybe their patents, maybe their inventions, maybe getting published. Whatever it was, if they were deemed useful, Jeffrey Epstein would have the ability to lend a helping hand. He would also have, eerily enough, the ability to speak very directly and knowledgeably on whatever subjects that were near and dear to these individuals. He was a chameleon, but he was a chameleon that was being prompted. You understand? That's what he did. And apparently he was very, very, very good at it. Let's never forget where he got his start with Ghislaine and Ghislaine's father, Robert. And of course, Les Wexner. He was, and probably still is, an Israel firster. And will always be. Even though that's not where he was from. He was groomed. I'm going to read you a little bit of that, and then we'll jump real quickly into an ITV reporter and her videographer were allowed to get on board one of the planes that left, I think, out of Jordan to drop not Jordan. We've had to have gone. No. I don't know where it came from. Were they German? Did they come out of? Did they come? It might have been German, and they came from Malta, or they came from. I don't know where they came from. But aside from that, they were allowed to get on board, and so they were in the back when the big doors opened, and they started rolling the pallets of aid out the back, and they shot some images of what Gaza looks like now, and it is unbelievable. There's an article on my website I just posted talking about from July 5th from Palestine Information Center. I think that's what it is. They're talking back then that Israel had opened up the market to bring in contractors and bulldozers and things to scoop up rubble, to throw it in the back of big-ass fucking trucks, including body parts, children, elderly, and to transport it back into Israel, where they could, I guess, sell the scrap metal. They could sort it. They could sell the concrete to construction companies. Never miss a chance to make a fucking shekel. And of course, they could do away with the bodies. And that process started as far as I know, as far back as July the 5th of this year. It might have started sooner, I don't know. Which definitely explains why they don't want anything, even a drone flying over top of Gaza. Because they don't want the rest of the world to see them and their ghoulish behavior of scooping up the rubble, trying to profit off the rubble, and of course, to throw away the bodies of the Palestinians that they killed in the process. This is ghoulish. This is beyond ghoulish. I want to just say, I'll end the article talking about potential alleged video that Mossad must have of Donald Trump back in his Coke days and his Playboy days, doing his little dance and oogling, models. When he was running a modeling agency, and Jeffrey Epstein had a quote-unquote modeling agency, and Luc Besson had a fucking quote-unquote modeling agency, all involving underage girls. Their wonderful secret. I just want you to understand. I want you to think about this I'm going to read this article and then play that video and talk about that video a little bit, and that'll be the end of this video today. I just want you to understand the level of depravity we're talking about here. And I want you to grasp it, really grasp it. I mean, I know South Park makes, humorous videos and we laugh and go, ha ha ha, he's in bed with Satan, that's funny. I want you to understand the level of depravity here. Glorious Israel, and at least 80% of their population are on board with this, are slaughtering men, women, children, elderly, disabled, anybody, everybody. And their own fucking hostage, and their own soldiers and citizens who were taken hostage. If you go back to yesterday's video I made from the truth about what happened on October the 7th, you'll understand. It's not hard to fathom. They've never given a shit about the hostage because they didn't give a shit about the Israelis or the fucking soldiers or the fucking attendees at the Nova Music Festival before the event of October the 7th. In fact, they pulled their license and told them they had to fucking have the Nova Music Festival in the location they were. They brought them a mile closer to the fucking border and put them right there in the middle of where it was all going to happen. They put them there. They put them there. And then, when it kicked off, they did nothing. They didn't give the order to get out there and do anything for 2 hours. They wanted a body count so they could justify what they're doing now. This is the horror and this is the horror of the reality of what happened on October the 7th and what's happening today. But in order to get away with stealing someone else's land, just because you covet it, just because they're greedy, they are using evidence of the rape of a child, and they are holding it over a world leader so that they can literally starve more children to death. This is how greater Israel will be born. In the most unimaginable, in a cavalcade, in a fucking a plethora of the most unimaginable sin you can possibly imagine. That is how God's chosen people are trying to make fucking greater Israel into a reality. It is stunningly obscene. But again, as I mentioned in the article, I'm going to read the article in a second. I'll show you the rest of the images. As I mentioned in the article, people like Jeffrey Epstein, Benjamin Netanyahu, Bezalel Smotrich, fucking Ben Gvir, and apparently 80% of the population of the Jewish state feel like they are beyond our petty, plebish, commoner morals. To them, there is no good and evil. There's only what you do and how much you can get away with. That's the true measure of power. That is why what Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump shared was such a wonderful secret. It was an expression of their power to do the most heinous thing that the rest of us commoners abhor. and get away with it with impunity. And now, here we are, all this time later. And Israel feels the same way about committing the worst war crime possible, which is genocide. They really feel like they are beyond our moralizing. They're going to pretend, like they always pretend to share these beliefs and our belief systems with us, but they don't. They don't. That's for the peasants. And until you can see beyond that, until you can attend the cremation of care and realize that's just, those are governors. Not designed to keep you from going too fast on a fucking NASCAR track, but designed to keep you from really living. And once you get beyond that, then you are allowed to participate in Candyland. Let's see what Scotty has for you today. A peep inside New York Lolita Mansion, forever to be known as Candyland. And what was clearly either an inside joke or fair warning, quote, dozens of framed prosthetic eyeballs lined the entryway, end quote, from the New York Times. You've been warned, it seems to imply. Curious choice for a man so closely connected to Mossad. Or maybe just a play on his reputation. I mean, after all, he did have a painting of Clinton in that famous blue dress and one of childish George W. Bush playing on the floor with blocks done up like the Twin Towers and toy planes in his hands while he smirks, looking at the viewer. Maybe just inside jokes playing on conspiracy theories. Or maybe inside jokes based on something far more sinister. The New York Times has published a few photos taken inside Jeffrey Epstein's 21,000 square foot New York mansion located right alongside Central Park. According to the Times, Ehud Barak, former Prime Minister of Israel, and his wife noted the great diversity of guests. Quote, there is no limit to your curiosity, they wrote in a message which was compiled with others in January 6, 2016. Quote, you are like a closed book to many, but of them you know everything about everyone. End quote. The media mogul, Mortimer Zuckerman, suggested ingredients for a meal that would reflect the culture of the mansion. A simple salad and whatever else, quote, would enhance Jeffrey's sexual performance, end quote. And the director, Woody Allen, described how the dinners reminded him of Dracula's castle. Quote, well, Lugosi has 3 young female vampires who service the place, end quote. All 3 are Jewish, by the way. Just saying. Excuse me. They don't refer to Jeffrey's pedo playground as Candyland in their article. That's a me thing, and I hope it sticks. Why? Quote, in the office, according to photos reviewed by the Times, Mr. Epstein showcased a green first edition of Lolita, the 1955 novel in which an intellectual develops a sexual obsession with a 12-year-old girl and repeatedly rapes her. Atop a wooden sideboard were more framed photos, including one of Mr. Epstein with Saudi Arabia's crown prince, Mohammed bin Salman, end quote, New York Times. Jeffrey was clearly a huge fan of all things Israel, of that there is no doubt. I mean, it was his job after all. Again, quote, Epstein preserved a map of Israel drawn on a chalkboard with Mr. Barak's signature, according to a photo reviewed by the New York Times, end quote. Below the fold, you will find a number of images taken from inside Candyland. The ultra-rich are different. They live different. They think different. They act different. Notice the comfy love seat set at the foot of the bed in the master bedroom so guests could watch him rape children while cuddling each other. Also notice the cameras in plain view as if to give the guest some sort of ease that those were the only ones around. Click on the images for larger views. This was in the atrium. As you enter the main doors in the atrium, this sculpture hangs in the stairwell. How many children did Epstein and his guests walk up those stairs past this disturbing work? Maria Farmer wouldn't know, as she worked there, watching him being taken up to be assaulted. That's a bronze in a designer wedding gown. It looks like it's suspended from the rope. The rope is actually wrapped around a steel rod that suspends it. In the main hallway, you walk past some tables covered with images of Jeff hanging out with various famous people. Some images are taken inside Candyland itself. We see here a dollar bill, apparently a bet. It's paid off by Bill Gates, signed I was wrong, Bill Gates. We have a random fucking member of the Saudi royal family. Unfortunately, I don't know which one that is. It's not MBS. That's not the MBS picture that we talked about before, was mentioned before. Of course, we have Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein from that famous picture. And yes, circled there, talking with, I'm not sure who that is Steve Bannon. And that one was taken inside the house. Inside Candyland. Steve Bannon. Here we have some more, just to make sure. This is Richard Branson in the upper right-hand corner over here. This is the same table. And this is Bill Clinton sharing an intimate moment with Jeffrey Epstein. In his private office, you get a sense of the money and power this man possessed. It is unmistakable. And yes, that is a stuffed, I believe, Bengal or albino tiger. I want you to look at these two twin fucking curios. They are beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I couldn't even begin to tell you what they're worth. I couldn't even begin to tell you what they're worth. I'll tell you right now, the average working man, his salary wouldn't pay for one of those in a year. The walls, perhaps white pine. Don't know. Maybe ash. But that's not paper. That's not fucking veneer like you have on your fucking plastic veneer like you have on your floors. That's real. This is power. This is money. They don't even picture his desk. There's an actual Persian rug. Not an imitation. There's no imitations in this fucking mansion. This 21,000 square foot mansion. None. Well, with the exception of Jeffrey himself. Lastly, finally, as mentioned before, Jeffrey Epstein's master bedroom, complete with special viewing love seat set at the foot of his bed. We'll show it again. And of course, the camera in this room that you can see. Notice one doesn't exist here that we can't see. But there were many. This is the habitat of a deranged individual. Look at the fucking comment down there. Race is just a social construct. Do you understand, you stupid goyim? This is the habitat of a deranged individual, exceedingly wealthy and brilliant. Epstein enjoyed and still enjoys a life well above any morals or codes or laws or consequences for his action that us normies live with every day. The wealthy are beyond our limitations. They see them for what they are, dampeners designed to keep the plebes in line and keep them from, well, living. That's how they see our peasant moralities. Ruining children is the ultimate high for them, stealing their innocence. That is the wonderful secret some shared with Jeff in Candyland. That is Candyland. And you can find that on my website. I will post a link to that article down below. You can also find it on my Substack. I want to show you this. You can find a link to it here. I'll post a link to this as well down below in the video. I've queued it up here from ITV News. This is an individual who was on board one of the, I think, German, though that flag is certainly not from Germany. I think maybe a week ago when they did a drop. This was posted 20 hours ago. And I'll let the video speak for itself.
From entering Gaza, 15,000 feet above, is the closest we get to seeing for ourselves the consequences of the war it is waging here. When we joined an airdrop last week, we were told Israel didn't want images from above being filmed or shown. Aid being dropped from this flight is to those who are trying to survive in this hell. This was Gaza before the bombs started falling, a place of life where normal lives were lived. There is no sign of that normality now. This is the new normality for the Mohra family and others. Both O'Day and Mohammed have acute malnutrition on top of a neurological disorder. They need specialist milk and medicine. Without it, their lives are fading away.
This child, Uday, is 4 years old and he weighs just over 4 kilos. Mohammed is 3 and he's 5 kilograms. I call on the world to help my children get treated, or at least get them milk and nappies.
This is one of the explosions which destroyed Gaza, targeting the Turkish-Palestine Friendship Hospital, the only specialist cancer hospital in Gaza. This is what's left of it now. This was the Al Wafa Old People's Home. We can't say what's become of its residents. This was a primary and secondary school. We can't say what became of the pupils. Many of the other ruins were homes. We can't say whether those that lived here survived or are among the 60,000 now dead.
It looks to me like some of these areas are already being excavated. I'm guessing this is northern Gaza.
Under international law, it is a war crime to target schools, hospitals, and other civilian sites.
I mean, you can see all the construction trucks and things and the tracks that they have left. They're already erasing the evidence of their heinous acts of genocide. And they're also clearing the ground, clearing the way for Gaza 2035. So they can start rebuilding. They can bring in the developers like Steve Witkoff, like Donald Trump Jr., and all the others to start turning a profit off of literally wiping Palestine off the map. And there's no question. This is why they don't want anybody seeing what they're doing and recording what they're doing. Again, you can find the full video here. It's certainly worth watching. This is the woman who did the report. That's her in the plane filming the whole thing from above. And here's the article from the Palestine Information Center talking about the fact that they're literally scooping everything up and tossing it into fucking dump trucks, including, and most importantly, Israel's victims. they're throwing them away like garbage so they can bring in their fucking construction teams and their engineers and their designers and start building Trump Towers and Trump's Riviera in the Mediterranean. It's disturbing. It's disturbing in that, for the most part, in our political structure, they're getting away with it. Nobody wants to look at it. Nobody wants to talk about it. A fucking U.S. soldier comes back from serving or from doing work or being contracted by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation and says this is the most unbelievable shit he's ever seen in his life. And that comes from a special forces guy who served in Afghanistan and Iraq, maybe even Fallujah for all I know. And he says this is the worst shit he's ever seen. The worst shit he's ever seen. So that's saying a lot. He gets a little bit of attention here and there, and then shoot, nothing. They just go on. They go on because they are above our sense of morality. They are beyond it. They are above our sense of morality, and therefore they are above any kind of accountability. They did not kill Jeffrey Epstein. Now this jackass whistleblower is coming out saying, oh, he said Trump was going to kill him a week before he died. Jeffrey Epstein was extracted. They don't kill people like that. They don't murder people like that. They find ways to give them a break. When the little people start demanding they be held accountable. And if they're not held accountable, it makes those who don't hold them accountable appear to be in on it. So they have to do something. What do? Well, down here in Florida, he gave him a goddamn sweetheart deal. Acosta did. Alex Acosta did. And then to pay Alex Acosta for that sweetheart deal, Trump made him Secretary of Transportation. But then, when that Julie Brown and Miami fucking Herald article came out talking about that sweetheart deal, the plebes again were getting upset and riled up. And that didn't look good. It didn't reflect well on fucking Donald Trump. After all, MAGA's his fucking base. And the MAGAites, they hate them some fucking child porn. They hate them some fucking child abuse. They hate them fucking child sex trafficking, don't they? Do they so much now? I don't know. I don't know. Now that it's their guy, Israel feels the same way. They feel they are empowered enough with the access they have to wealth outside of Israel. And of course, AIPAC, and in some cases, blackmail with people like Jeffrey Epstein. They feel like they are above and beyond all that. And in some ways they are, but the rest of the world they are not. And they are working hard. They are working very hard to try to get the influencers in the United States, especially those that MAGA follow, MAGA adjacent, if you will, to get the influencers to press the ideas that this is all fucking, this is all manufactured. This is all fake news. This is all a hoax designed to bring down the Trumpster, a hoax perpetrated by anti-Semitic fucking Russians and Russian bots. They're working hard to do that, and they're failing. Thankfully, they're failing. Because the rest of the world, though they have yet to literally do anything physically, with the exception of Yemen and Lebanon, they have yet to do anything substantial, anything tangible to stop this process. Hopefully that will change in the near future. Anyway, today I had to go get electrocardiogram done. I thought I was meeting my cardiologist. I was wrong. They gave me an electrocardiogram instead. And next week I've got to go meet with my cardiologist. And Thursday I've got to meet with my pulmonologist. Lots of stuff going on. Anyway, I thank you for your time. It's disturbing. It's. I wish I had better news for you. I don't. It is good. It is hopeful to see ITV put a fucking reporter and a cameraman up in one of those planes. It is good to see the New York Times at least disclosing some of the images from Candyland. I saw Luke Radowski. As much as I've got Luke Radowski, Jesus. However, as far as I know, he's the only other one. Please, if I'm wrong, let me know in the comment section. But if I am, he's the only one that I know who's actually out there saying maybe Jeffrey Epstein isn't really dead. As far as I know, I'd love to know there are others of us out there. Maybe even network with a few of them and see what they have in terms of information. But that's where I am today, August the 5th, 2025. I thank you for your time, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.